Hello everybody, Dodger here, and welcome back to the Vector Automotive Challenge. This episode coming to you from the brand new open beta build of Automation. This build update includes a lot of new features that have to do with the production of vehicles and the rating of vehicles that is going to help define our Vector Automotive Challenge series much more specifically. Instead of having to use our imagination for a lot of these values, we're going to be given these values. So let me demonstrate first what that means and how that relates to us. So the first thing we'll notice here is that the UI for this whole screen has changed. It's much cleaner, looks great, and is, I would say, a little bit easier to read. Also, you see this here, companies. No more do we have to imagine that our cars fall into certain companies' categories. They actually do, because you can bloop, put them into their own companies. You can see here the naming nomenclature that I was using previously was to put the vector as part of the name. That is no longer necessary, but for the intrigue, I think it's going to be stuck that way. I've tried to remove it, and it won't go away. But you can go in here and add as many companies as you want, and you can take cars in and out of companies. So you can see here, not in a company. Yeah, there's the cars that are not in a company. Here's all the cars, and if we just select vector, you can see that those are the cars that are available and how many trims are available. Okay, so if we go back into character, quote unquote, now, the year is 1965, and we have updated our existing intrigue lineup. Due to the previous success of these cars, we have been able to acquire a large number of existing Studebaker dealerships. As the company of Studebaker has started to fold and crumble, we've been trying to buy up assets from them, including some of their factories and existing jigs and just overall staff and parts and locations to try and grow our brand. The Intrigue Rally Sport and Traveler has been a hit amongst buyers, but overall the media has not really paid our company a whole lot of attention yet. In 1964, we introduced a new concept car with the Quark. The overall feelings towards the car were good, but once again, did not grab a whole lot of attention, but we think it will be a good car for our buyers. It's just not something that is really a striking car that will really bring attention to our company, but it's something we need to have. We have to have this kind of car or our company will not succeed. So if we go here and select things like the Vector Intrigue Rally, that is now called the Vector Intrigue, whoops, the update to the game also introduced some new balancing issues. It actually fixed some previous balancing issues, which meant I had to go in and tweak these cars, which was great because Vector needed to upgrade these to the 1965 model year. So we're about 4 years now into the run of this car, and overall, not too terribly much has changed. One of the biggest things is that the cooling airflow calculations are now significantly different. Actually, this can be reduced quite a bit. I probably get a little carried away there. Yeah, that didn't really do anything detrimental. And the fuel economy kind of statistics, the way the algorithm works has been reworked. So, yeah, those numbers are now much more in line with the numbers you would expect from these cars. I personally think that maybe they're a little too low now. 10.9 miles per gallon out of this car seems a little crazy, but we'll see how that number changes as the timeline progresses. And this is the Rally Edition, using a newer, upgraded P-Series engine, so now it makes even more power. In the Design tab here, you see we have ourselves a nice overview of the selling points of the vehicles, of what I would call these. So you can see we're making 301 horsepower now, so that's a pretty substantial increase there. And this engine only has an 11.5 economy, so it's understandable for it to have a terrible miles per gallon. Under detailed stats, we have a lot more information here as well. Or, well, pretty much the same information, but now displayed a little bit better. So things like economy now has its own gear. Oh, no. So things like economy here have their own page, and you can really see the breakdown of how you're getting this economy rating. I'm going to need a little clarification with some of this stuff. I think maybe these are switched. Feels like maybe they are, because the cruise average is 13.7 and the acceleration average is 53.4. I really think these two are switched. Because, those numbers would make a lot of sense if they were the other way around. So we'll see about that. This is, keep in mind, the open beta. So this is not something that's already been pushed out to the public. You have to opt into using this version. I'm antsy. I want to take a look at it and get a better idea of what our car company is doing. So, we're running here in the open beta. Now here are the running costs. This is pretty much new, and some of the stuff is not quite available yet. It does give you a better idea of how you're getting this running cost kind of statistic. And there's different regions that are currently fictional will eventually be real. That change the different, amounts of running costs per area. These different regions will completely change the kind of car company that you have. For the time being, we're going to stay here in Gasmia because that is it's the default option. And for the sake of the beta, I think that's where we'll stay for now. And our company is very young, so we're not quite pushing towards a global market yet. As we grow, that's something we probably will be looking into and is going to be pretty important to the future of the company. And that's cool that we now have a feature in the game to show us how we're doing there. Alright, now here's the kicker, the Markets tab. So this shows us where our car would be marketed and how it would sell in those markets. And it's going to go ahead and just highlight 3 of them that it thinks are the highest. And our Rally edition of the Vector and Tree is no surprise. Its top 3 would be Light Sport Premium, Premium Small, Light and Agile Sports Car with excellent cornering. Yep. Track, a performance car optimized for the track, light, great cornering, great acceleration, and Track Premium. So that means that it's straddling probably between 2 price brackets, and the car is priced accordingly. I have put a 10% markup on this car because it is going to be limited production. It costs us a lot of money to make, and we don't want to sell a whole lot of them anyway, so we need to make some money off of these guys. So I'm pretty okay with these 3 being the top kind of selections. And then you can see here there's a ton of other options, and it's not saying that your car won't sell to these. There's certainly some little bit of desirability in all of them. So some buyers in, say, Family Sport Premium may be interested in this car still. But if we change over to the Traveler, which I've updated a little bit as well, including making it a little bit easier to drive, introducing things such as the automatic transmission, has put this car into the Family Sport and Family Sport Premium category, and a little bit of the light sport. So you can see it kind of straddles right between the Rally and what is the Sport. So the Sport here pretty much follows the same as the Rally, but just in a little bit more heavy towards the light sport category. So it's a little bit more affordable, but you lose a little bit of the performance. This is the car we intend to sell. This is the car that we would be putting in the showroom floor, saying, hey, this is the one. I know you saw the Rally on TV, but maybe you should consider the Sport because it's much more affordable and you get all this performance still. So it's very, I think it's pretty darn well marketed right here. And then, like I said, it still kind of falls into some of the other categories, such as muscle. The year is 1965. We're definitely starting to get into this big muscle car era, and hopefully the Intrigue is doing a decent job of breaking into that market. As intriguing as that is, let's move on to the Quark and see about maybe moving that into a more production-ready car, something we can do relatively quickly. So we will up the year to 1965. I'm going to copy the sedan concept, and then we'll make a base trim. Now this car's appearance seemed to be pretty popular. Not a whole lot of negative comments about it. Not particularly a lot of excited comments either, and that's pretty much what this car's purpose is. You know, its purpose is not to be overly striking. The market we're trying to make this car appeal to is the family kind of cruiser, but still with a little bit of a sports edge to it. So we'll see if the markets kind of agree with that. But first, let's go through this and make sure we don't need to do any updating. This car was indeed using the automatic transmission, and you can see already that the Family Sport and Utility Premium, I think, are two categories that it is kind of basing itself on. Handling-wise, it looks okay. Braking-wise, lots of brake fade on this car. It's 1965. Is there anything we can do about that now? It still has 13s on it, and that's kind of still right, I think. We could go up to 14s, but then we won't get the tire width that we want. So let's stick with the 13s. Yeah, I guess we're kind of stuck with that, aren't we? Yeah, because we got the largest drums we can put in there. We can use solid discs now, though. Is that worth the money? At least up front, maybe? Oh yeah, that's a huge benefit towards the brake fade. Let's do that. Yes, yes. Okay, well that's gonna help out, I think, even more with the drivability. One of the biggest balance things is the cooling airflow. You now need much more cooling airflow to cool an engine. So this one previously had about 60, now it requires about 184. So yeah, much more cooling required. Now this car in its concept car form had a premium interior. We're going to bump that back down to standard to cheapen it up and probably make it a little bit sportier too, because it's going to be lighter. Overall it's going to help, but it's going to make it kind of appeal to a different market, and this is the one we really want, Family Sport. Okay, we go down to, okay, let's watch this. Family Sports at 59, Utility Premium at 72, but if we get rid of that Premium AM radio, which was basic, look at that, now we're up to 64% on the Family Sport. That's what we want. We kept this car at advanced safety in the era that it was a concept car. Let's keep that up. Alright, so here's the overall design of the base model Quark, and it has a 4-door, 5-seat configuration. It has 145 horsepower from that classic I-Series inline 6. In the detailed stats, look at the difference in running cost here, 3,500 versus the like 4,200 for the Intrigue, so that's a little lower. Economy is 13.5, that's better. I'm saying the same thing here. These numbers must be switched. You could probably use a little bit more overdrive. Seems like its cruising miles per gallon isn't great. Alright, well I tried more overdrive and a 3-speed box. Not a huge improvement. So this is pretty much what we're going to get out of her, I would say. Practicality, this is kind of a new one. Has a cornering value, and then most of the other stuff is like the amount of doors, how many seats it has, how wide, how tall, what kind of load capacity, how much headroom you have, so stuff like that. The footprint of this car is rather small, so we get a nice boost there. Alright, for the markets, we have Utility Sport Budget, Family Sport, and Pony. Interesting, that's a surprise. Did not see that one coming. And pretty good spread between them, doesn't it? The competitiveness in Family Sport is 64. That's pretty competitive. Pony Car is 60. That's higher than expected. And Utility Sport Budget is a little bit less, but pretty good. Seems like maybe it's a little overpriced for this Utility Sport Budget. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that markup a little bit. There we go. Now it's a little bit more affordable and a little bit more competitive in this Utility Sport Budget, right where I want it to be. But that's a pretty nice spread right there. A Family Sport, Utility Sport Budget, and Pony Car. Those are the top 3 categories for this car. I think that's right where we want our market to be. That's right where we want our reputation to kind of reside. So I think this is perfect. Very happy with that. Also, to help round out this model lineup, we've made the Quark Distance, which has a more driver's car mentality to it, a traveling car that's ready to go the distance, has same engine and drivetrain, everything like that. It has a more premium-minded interior with better safety, more quality interior materials, better entertainment, has better quality suspension with a more comfort-minded setup for the ride, as well as the off-road ability. It will have a off-road skid pan on it to try and make sure it can get through any roads that you happen across. All of this does not really drive up the cost of the vehicle too terribly much, which means that it falls into similar categories. However, look now, we are having a 61.9 competitiveness in utility premium, a very different kind of category than the pony car we were previously kind of marketing towards. Also, the family sport premium and the utility sport budget are in there as well. Another cool thing we can do is we can kind of just advance the market and see how this car will do, let's say for the 5-year run, because that's how long it would be before we'd have a chance to go back to this car and do a complete revision on it. In 1970, things are going to change quite a bit. Looks like we have family utility premium, family sport premium, and muscle. And these values do fall down to about 50, 54, but it's still fairly competitive for a car that has been in production for so long. So that's very encouraging. That is a very good sign. Alright, so now that all of the kind of businessy stuff is out of the way, let's have some fun. Remember how I was saying our cars were selling well and had a very good impression upon our buyers, but overall the media has kind of ignored us and the magazine reviewers just kind of brush over our cars. They're not taking us very seriously. It's time to produce something that really has some wow, something that really makes people pay attention to our company. It's time to build a muscle car. We've been watching how well the Ford Mustang has been selling and has really taken the nation by storm. We hear that all the other big American manufacturers are prepping their own versions of the new American phenomenon, the muscle car. It's time to really take hold in that market. Previously, our Intrigue really made a step into this market. However, the footprint of the car and its overall smaller nature kind of doesn't have the same big car, big impression that a muscle car has. So that's what we're going to do today. Some of you may remember that in our acquisition of the Studebaker dealers and their factories and a lot of their staff, we may have kind of gathered some inspiration from some of their builds. I previously mentioned that I was really a big fan of their Avanti, somewhat muscle car. There was really a lot about the Avanti that we kind of liked as a car builder. However, it's just not quite right for the muscle car market. It's too small, too awkward looking, and it doesn't grab your attention. So we're going to try and combine some of the spirit of that, some of the brute mentality of the muscle car boom, and make it into something different. So when it comes to the chassis, we're going to go for a monocoque design, a unibody design. We're going to have a steel kind of underpinnings with a longitudinal setup, front double wishbone, rear single axle coil, because we need that rear solid axle, but the panel material will be fiberglass. We're going to try and continue that trend. We're going to try and make it work on a muscle car. Chevrolet's done very well with it on the Corvette. Studebaker tried it with the Avanti. We're going to try and do even better with what will be called the Vector Combat. My investors had urged me to try and make this car wild and crazy, to try and push it into a more mainstream front page magazine kind of car. However, I'm starting to see that we're a little bit late here. Ford's already got their Mustang. We've heard Chevy's pretty close to their competitor. They have other muscle cars already in production. So this car, which is big and bold, is maybe not quite as crazy as some of the investors had hoped it would be, but what I'm hoping it can be is production ready. I need this car to be ready for next year. So I did something that I'm hoping is bold enough, but will still be realistic enough that people are ready for this car. That's what I need to know from our investment team. Is this car ready for production? Can we go ahead and push this thing through and get it on the market? So that's why it's not maybe as radical as some of the concept cars you're seeing out on the tour right now, but hopefully it catches an eye and makes people say, yes, that's a car I'm willing to drive. So in our stable of engines, we have this, the V Series, which has a maximum capacity of 4.6 liters. That's okay, but we probably do need an engine larger than that. It will work just fine for our show car, and we can throw the Phase 2 into there, which was developed for the 65 Intrigue Rally, and has good numbers, 301 horsepower, 304 foot-pounds of torque. Not too shabby at all. In the coming years, though, we likely need to start working on a larger displacement engine lineup, and something that is maybe a little bit more in tune with the mid-60s. Because this is a concept car, and it is going to be a show car, we're doing some things to pony it up a little bit, including getting the maximum amount of power out of it we can, even if it's not completely reliable. We should be able to get into the mid-300s, I would say. We're already at 315, put a performance intake on there. This should be flowing just fine. Yeah, twins would be way too much. Twin 4-barrel, I should say, would be way too much. So let's just do the twins on the 2 barrels and performance intake. We already put some long tube headers on the thing. That's probably flowing just fine. Actually, there was an increase there. That's impressive. And we can probably up the compression just a wee bit. Okay, 332 horsepower, that should be show-stopping numbers. That's what we're looking to do. We're not looking to show-stop with our wild and crazy looks. We're going to stop them in their tracks when they see 332 horsepower on the production sheet. For the trim, we've got some new stuff here. It's 1965, we're advancing our tech, so we can put a 4-speed manual in there with a nice little overdrive, but still getting good power. We'll have to adjust this to get some traction, though. This car will easily fit 15s, so that's nice. And we'll do the muscle car look. Yeah, let's do the big thick ones, I like those. I ended up going with 14 so I could really get some meaty tires in the back. I'll have to tune that as well. We have these solid discs now. We can use 2 piston calipers up front, which we probably will, because this is going to be a very, very heavy car. Let's do 4-wheel discs on the concept. Maybe we'll retract that later on. But again, we just need some things that catch people's attention. Look at the cooling airflow. This car needs 375. That is way more than we would have seen previously. 4-seater, I think, is the way to go. A couple buckets in the back, because those seats are going to be cramped anyway. Let's not cramp them anymore. We'll do a sport interior on this one. And for the first time, we're going to make a concept car with no record player. Power steering and standard safety because we need to keep this thing light. Standard springs because we want the sportiness. This car is super nose heavy, I'm sure, just because of the way the body is laid out. So let's put some nice dampers in the front of it. All of this needs to be tuned. All right, we got our initial run. Now let's go back through and tweak. That's pretty close. Now, as far as the 0 to 60 goes, it looks like it's struggling. 7.1. Should be able to get more than that out of this thing. 6.7. Now we're getting somewhere. Still having lots of wheel spin. Sadly, we don't really have any good differentials to choose from just yet. The automatic locker will take away a lot of wheel spin and get us an awesome time. However, that's not really something you want to be driving around with. An automatic locking rear differential is pretty scary. So we won't even touch that because it's just not realistic to be having in our car. And otherwise, I think we're in pretty good shape here. Let's look at the suspension. Understeer as expected. Need even more front dampers, it looks like. And then, let's see. More front camber. Alright, drivability of 30, sportiness of 27. That's pretty good. Comfort's pretty low, but Nobody's ever going to drive this car. And the prestige is nice and high. That's an important number to hit. Alright, let's see what the basic numbers of this thing look like. 9.3 miles per gallon. Nice, nice. Just what I expected. The detail stats, running costs are very high. Practicality is decent. Safety is decent. Yeah, everything's pretty good. The drivability and the sportiness are certainly nice. It's nice to have those even. That's not something we've had with our other cars. That's probably the main difference between this and the Intrigue. Is, well, that and the size. So you get a lot more size to, you know, put lots more stuff, and overall just have that huge road presence. But you also have the ability to have some good drivability out of a car and have good sportiness because you can put those huge tires underneath of it. Alright, let's look at our markets, and as expected, because this is 1965, nobody has seen a car quite like this just yet. As far as performance goes, Hyper, Super, and Track Premium are the top three. However, it is very competitive in those three. Those are not very high selling markets. Super and Hyper are not where we necessarily want to be. And obviously we're going to need to make a nice healthy profit off of this. Muscle Premium and Regular Muscle are where we need to be. Somewhat even in the pony category. It's probably a little too big for that. So these are not categories we hope to sell this car in mass production. These are. And we can tune this car to selling these with different engine combinations. That is to be done after we see how it performs in the show car circuit, in the, you know, concept car circuit. We need to see how the audience responds to it to see if it's worth pursuing this kind of market to begin with. Maybe that's not even where we should be right now, but I feel as though our company image really shows strongly in this way. We just need to get the word out there. The Vector is a serious manufacturer, and we want to take it to the big guys. So there we go. There is the Vector concept car for 1965, the Combat. Let me know what you think. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you next time. Oh man, the tempers are going. Just something about this form of racing that does that. Definitely feeling the front tires right now.
Shit, I'm sorry. I hit a bump and I went right into it.
I need to back up my entries. If I
You did. I hit that bump, I went right into it.
I think there's one thing to really learn. What market we're trying to